Have you ever heard of a hospital ward that's been open for over 50 years, but hasn't treated a single patient since the night everyone inside it mysteriously died? They call it Ward 9B, though you won't find that name on any official records today. The hospital itself has been sold, renamed, and renovated multiple times, but that one wing, it's still there. Locked up tight, glowing faintly in the dark, as if it simply refuses to die. It all started back in 1978 at a quiet English hospital called St. Mary's Infirmary. This place was known for its isolation ward, a unit for patients with highly contagious diseases. Ward 9B was small, sterile, and mostly forgotten, tucked away at the very end of a long, dim corridor. Then, on a stormy November night, the power went out. The entire hospital was plunged into darkness. Lights flickered and died, alarms fell silent, and for exactly 7 minutes, there was nothing. When the emergency generators finally kicked in, a horrifying discovery was made. Every single patient in Ward 9B was dead. There were no alarms, no signs of a struggle. Their heart monitors hadn't even gone off. The nurses found them lying peacefully in their beds, eyes wide open, faces calm, as if they had all simply fallen asleep and never woken up. The coroner was baffled. He couldn't find a cause of death. The staff, terrified, refused to go back in. The ward was sealed off, officially declared out of service. But here's where it gets strange. The ward was never officially closed. Hospital records continue to show it as active, even though no one was assigned to work there. And that's when the reports began. Nurses working the late shift started noticing something unsettling. At precisely 2:13 a.m., the exact minute the power had failed that fateful night, the lights inside the sealed Ward 9B would flicker on. No one could explain it. The electrical circuit for that ward wasn't even connected to the hospital's new system. Security guards patrolling the upper floors reported hearing call bells ringing from inside the locked ward. Others swore they saw movement through the frosted glass windows, shadowy figures pacing the hallway, standing behind the old nurse's station, just watching. One guard's story still sends shivers down the spines of the current staff. He said he heard soft footsteps right behind him as he passed the door. When he spun around, the sound stopped. He leaned closer to the small viewing window on the door, shining his flashlight inside. And that's when he saw it, the faint outline of a person standing just a few feet away, staring right back at him. The next morning, he turned in his uniform and was never seen at the hospital again. Years went by. The hospital expanded, renamed itself, and brought in new staff. But Ward 9B remained exactly as it was, sealed, silent, and untouched. Finally, in 1992, the administration decided it was time to reclaim the space. The plan was to turn it into a brand new pediatric ward. When the construction crew arrived to break through the sealed doors, they only lasted 2 hours before walking off the job, refusing to go back. They claimed they heard voices, dozens of them, whispering their names. One worker swore the walls themselves were breathing, that a wave of warm air brushed across his face, even though the room had been sealed for over a decade. Another said the ceiling lights flickered in a strange, deliberate pattern, almost like Morse code. When they reviewed the security footage from that night, they found that all the cameras on the 9th floor had recorded nothing but static. The recording only resumed at 2:13 a.m., showing the empty ward perfectly clean, its lights glowing softly, as if nothing had ever happened. After that incident, the renovation was immediately cancelled. Ward 9B was sealed up again. But this is the most disturbing part. It seems the ward is still being maintained. Every month, fresh medical supplies inexplicably appear in the storage bins inside the ward, even though no staff members have access to it. Cleaning logs are found filled out, signed with initials that match no current or past employees. Even the power meter for the ward shows consistent usage, meaning that somehow the lights are still on. An anonymous nurse once leaked a shift schedule that listed Ward 9B among the active departments, with staff names assigned to it. But when investigators tried to cross-check those names against hospital records, they found that none of them existed. Not a single one. It was as if the ward had its own invisible team still doing their rounds, a phantom staff from a place no one could trace. Then, one night in 2008, during a cleanup of old hospital storage, a nurse stumbled upon a leather-bound diary hidden inside a metal drawer labeled Ward 9B. It belonged to one of the nurses who had worked there back in 1978. Her final entry was written on the night of the blackout. She wrote, "The power's gone out. Everyone's asleep. Even the patients. but there's someone walking the hall. I can hear their shoes. They don't sound human. The next page was completely blank except for one single word, written shakily in what looked like red ink. Stay. The diary was taken to the administration for record keeping and disappeared a week later. The nurse who found it transferred to a different hospital shortly after and has refused to talk about it ever since. Today, St. Mary's Infirmary is long gone. It's now called St. Jude's General Hospital, a modern, clean facility, full of light. But if you're ever there late at night, and you take the elevator to the top floor, just stand still for a moment and listen. Around 2:13 a.m., you might hear the faint, crackling buzz of an old intercom, the kind the hospital hasn't used in decades. Then, through the static, a calm female voice might whisper, "Nurse to Ward 9B. Nurse to Ward 9B. The current staff will tell you it's just an old wiring glitch, a ghost in the machine from the hospital's past. But those who heard it claim something else. They say the voice sounds too real, too close, like someone is speaking from just behind the wall. No one answers that call anymore. There is an unspoken rule among the night staff. If you ever hear your name followed by the words, 'Report to Ward 9B,' you don't respond. You don't go. Because they say that once you walk through those doors, no one will ever see you again. And yet, every single night, the lights inside 9B still come on. The machines still hum. The empty beds still look freshly made, as if they're waiting for someone to lie down. The ward treats no one, but it never closes. Maybe it can't. Maybe it's still running, just not for the living. So if you ever find yourself in a hospital after dark, and you see a hallway where the lights glow a little too bright, where the air feels a little too cold, and you see a sign that reads Ward 9B, don't go any further. Turn around and walk away. Because the only thing that ward admits now is you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there.